Hello everyone, my name is Akihiko Andrew Tohei, and I teach at Sakura no Seibo Junior College in Fukushima, and also at Fukushima University. I would like to share with you some online communicative ideas that have worked for me in bringing students closer together during the pandemic, and also as we gradually return to in-classroom teaching. And all these ideas were used in an asynchronous online classroom. So the first question is probably, why an asynchronous classroom? Although many teachers at our school chose to use Zoom for online learning during the heart of the pandemic in the 2020 academic year, I thought that asynchronous learning would be the way to go based on the results of questionnaires sent out to the first-year students. One reason I chose asynchronous was that the internet was not always available for students to use at their houses. Almost half of them shared a device with other family members, so I thought they might have trouble attending a real-time session. Even this year, nearly half of the incoming freshman class shares a device with other family members at their home. The students also had a relatively low-level English. The average TOEIC score on their English class placement tests was around 230, which is at the lower end of the CFR scale. So I thought they would need time to put together their English output. Finally, and most importantly, the students did not know each other. On the survey that we asked incoming first-year students to answer, almost the same number of students were worried about making friends as they were about keeping up with their online studies. I wanted to find a way that students could get to know each other gradually instead of being thrown together and forced to discuss something in a foreign language immediately. For example, real-time conversations in Zoom breakout rooms. So when creating the class system and choosing what apps to use, I took 3 points into consideration. The first was that the system had to be easily understood and navigated. Our school uses Office 365, but I was not satisfied with the layout. I thought I needed something more interesting yet simple, and thought that the students would appreciate it as well. I was also looking for a way to make the instructions as clear as possible to reduce confusion. The second point was that the system had to be equally usable on both PCs and smartphones. Most online systems are already compatible, but the layout changes drastically depending on the device. Again, our students aren't highly skilled with computers, so they tend to ask a lot of questions about how to access certain folders or documents on confusing Office 365 layouts. I wanted things that looked relatively the same on both PCs and smartphones. Finally, the system and apps had to be free of charge. Many students were not able to work part-time jobs last year, as most of them worked at restaurants or bars, and they were already worried about using up their data plan connecting to Zoom for other classes. I wanted things that they could download for free or just open up in their web browser. And even now, students are having a hard time getting hours at their part-time jobs, especially those in restaurants and bars. As I mentioned, I wanted a colorful and interesting class management system, and finally decided on Google Sites. I chose Google Sites for ease of use and also for how it looks. Here's an example of my classroom layout. Students select their subject on the top bar and are taken to the class page. Then they have the current week displayed at the top, and the due date and time for that week's work is clearly displayed. Also, the appearance is basically the same on PCs and smartphones. Each task for the week is able to be clearly marked, and there is ample space for instructions. Also, any files or links are clearly shown on both PCs and smartphones. This goes for Google Form files such as this one, YouTube links, MP3s, PDFs, Word documents, etc. Students are able to clearly see what they are accessing or downloading. There are a variety of ways you can organize a class easily on the site. Basically, I organized the class as follows: a PDF of the previous week's homework answers, with explanations of any questions students had particular trouble with, an introduction to the topic with a YouTube video or an explanatory video by the teacher uploaded to YouTube, a link to the MP3 of the textbook passage, comprehension questions submitted and graded automatically through Google Forms, links to outside apps for interaction, and a weekly reflection that is counted as attendance and also gives an idea of what activities are working well or not working well with students. I found that lower level learners appreciate a somewhat fixed format in order to the activities on the site. They are able to get into a rhythm more easily if the activities are also clearly numbered. Now, onto the interaction with classmates, which was the main part of each course. Doing it asynchronously posed many problems. Mainly, how could face-to-face interaction be replicated with lower-level learners? I didn't want them to simply repeat phrases to each other, so I decided on a three-step interaction phase, or the 3 A's. The first week was adding your opinion on a topic related to the textbook. The next week was adding your opinion on a new topic and also asking a question to a classmate about their opinion from the previous week. The following week was adding your opinion, asking a question to a classmate, and then answering the classmate's question from 2 weeks ago. Once the students reach this third step, they are repeating it until the end of the course. This way they are interacting with at least 2 classmates per week. After the students submit their opinions before class, they are assigned a partner to ask a question to. I tried to give the students a different partner each week so that they get to know everyone in the class. Even when we returned to face-to-face, I kept this part of the class online in order to allow students to formulate their answers at their own pace. As far as the apps used, one of them was Padlet. If you aren't familiar with it, it is an interactive writing app similar to the question function of Google Classroom. Students can share their opinions on this with each other. The way it works is that you set up a Padlet topic of your choice. For example, study abroad. You can make up to 3 free Padlets, so this fits my 3-week class interaction schedule. After making the Padlet, you ask a question for the class to answer. Turning to the student answers, they look like this. I usually give them a model answer to use as a format, but most students are good at providing their own original information. The next week, they receive a comment from their classmate, and the following week, they reply to that classmate. All the while they are interacting with other students about other topics related to the textbook. One important point I stressed was using each other's names during interaction and also complimenting and thanking each other as much as possible. This made their interactions more positive and enjoyable. Also, since they had a week before the next class to formulate their own opinions and replies, lower level students were able to participate more freely. Accuracy was not the main goal here, but rather achieving understanding and communication. However, if there were common errors made by the students, I would address those in the following week's online material or at the beginning of a class that was face-to-face. For classes that involved a speaking component, I used Flipgrid. Similar to Padlet, it allows students to interact with their classmates, but through video. You can set up your own course classroom easily and create various discussion topics. I made different topics for each week, depending on the content of the textbook. There is plenty of room to give detailed instructions about the speaking activity. After each student uploads their video, their classmates watch and reply to each other. I would usually participate at first with a model opinion and also reply to students, but I think they preferred to speak with each other more instead. Also, there is an option to lock the Flipgrid classroom with a code, so the students did not have any worries about people outside the school seeing their video. Here is an example of the 3 A's on Flipgrid. For the sake of time, I won't show the opinion, just the question and the reply.
Hello, Karin. This is Saki. Your video was very interesting. I agree with you that it is not important to have the same fashion as our friends. I love your taste in fashion. By the way, I have a question. What is the best shopping of clothes you have ever made? I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Hello, Saki. Thank you for your question. I answer your question. I think the best shopping of clothes I've ever heard is my trench coat. I bought it a year ago. It cost about 9,000 yen, but it's really good quality and it matches any clothes, perfect for spring. I can also wear it on my suit, so I will wear it forever. Thank you.
Again, the focus was not on accuracy, but rather understanding and communication. Using names, complimenting and thanking each other were also highly encouraged for a more positive interaction, especially for lower level students. Finally, another successful Flipgrid activity that was not related to direct interaction was making individual role plays. Instead of conversation practice with a partner, the student played both roles in the dialogue. Towards the end of the semester, some students really got into the activity. And here is an example.
Thank you for calling Disney's Paradise Pier Hotel. May I help you?
I'd like to make a reservation, please.
Of course. Would you like a single or double room?
I'd like a double, please.
Thank you. And for how many nights?
For 3 nights. How much is the room?
It's $598 per night. Could I have your name, please?
It's Seki. It's spelled S-E as in egg, K-I.
Okay, thank you for your reservation. We are looking forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.
So students enjoyed watching each other's role plays and commenting on them. It also increased their own motivation to match each other's efforts. In conclusion, the asynchronous style of learning had positive effects on our students. In an anonymous exit survey of 96 students, over half of them reported that their relationships with classmates had gotten better or even much better. None answered that their relationships had gotten worse. Considering that most of them worried about making friends at first, and that they were without real-time interaction in the asynchronous classroom, I think it was successful in helping them get to know each other. Even after we returned to face-to-face learning, students enjoyed making the videos because it was the only time that they could interact with each other without wearing masks. 81% of students said that their confidence in English improved, some even dramatically. None reported that their confidence decreased. I believe that the asynchronous tasks allowed lower-level learners to learn or relearn the material at their own pace and take their time in formulating a response. The positive reinforcement from classmates also helped their confidence. Around 80% of students also stated that studying online for English class was more worthwhile than their other online classes. None reported that it was less worthwhile. Since many other classes were using Zoom and students reported connection issues and Zoom fatigue, I think the asynchronous classroom style was beneficial for most English learners. This is evidenced in their remote learning preference, where an overwhelming number of them chose asynchronous. Even after returning to face-to-face, students appreciated being able to learn material and interact with classmates on their own time gradually throughout the week. Finally, when asked which style of learning they preferred, over 60% chose online, while about 28% wanted to return to the classroom. Since these figures were from 2020, during the height of online learning, I'm sure these figures have changed for this year. However, some students, such as those who have to commute long distances or rely on public transportation, still express their desire for more online learning. Depending on your viewpoint, the situation may or may not have gotten better compared to last year. But these past 18 months of online learning have shown many students the possibilities of learning outside the classroom. As long as a classroom community is created and nurtured, students can have the same opportunities of interaction as a face-to-face classroom. And especially for low-level or low-confidence learners, this online environment may even be a safer and more productive one for them to grow. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.